And welcome back to Dusting History. Today I've got an image which is dear to my heart. This is the new electric cars, or trams, making their first appearance on Glen Huntly Road in Elsternwick in 1913. Now, this particular spot is about 15 minutes drive from my house, so a lot of these buildings are weirdly familiar to me. I came across this image today in the copyright-free archive of the Victorian Library and immediately knew I wanted to clean this up. So firstly, after cropping it, I'm just using some levels adjustments to try and set some black and white points. And zooming into the image, you can see there's quite a lot of dirt and spots on it, so I'll need to get rid of that. But first up, I'm just going to get rid of the text and some of the larger blemishes in the picture. Now, here I am in Topaz Photo AI, just looking to see if I can enhance the resolution of the image at all with a bit of digital sharpening, and it's great but a bit too much. So what I've ended up doing is settling on about half as much sharpening as I normally do and zero enhancement of faces. So now with the remove tool, I'm working around the image, removing all the hairs and dirt and specks and spots and scratches. This is very much a sped up here. This is sped up 1,000 times speed. So this was a bit of a lazy Sunday despotting this image. I love this part because this is when you look around the image and you start to notice all the different people and the different expressions and the different jobs and all the tiny details. Things like this special tramway sign, I just love it. And in fact, there's a guy, I don't know if I settle on him soon, but he's up back by that wagon parked on the street. He's got his tripod there, see that? He's taking another photo of the same tram. I tried to select the sky here just to try and make quicker work of all the stuff in the sky. I thought I might just get in there with a paintbrush and start to paint out the dots with a mask for the sky, but as you can see there's a lot of stuff there. But the sky select in Photoshop is good, but it does halo around the buildings a lot and it doesn't do a great job of it. So I'm going to abandon this in a second and go for my usual trick, which is to do a frequency separation, which is an action that you can download online and run. You can see here I'm running the action now. It creates a blurry background with another layer on top which just has all the dots and the high frequency detail. So I put a levels adjustment above it and really crushed it just while I'm working on this layer so that I can see where all the dots are. So putting that layer onto normal, and then rather than linear light, I can zoom in with that contrasted level adjust above it and see all the dots really clearly. So all I'm doing is painting grey paint onto that layer now. And when I pop this back into linear light, all those little black spots will be gone. Alright, time for a bit of a levels adjustment again. I do that several times while I work. And looking at the neural networks, just seeing if there's anything there in the photo restoration that I like. I thought I might try and knock out some of the grain and sharpen the image a bit further, but decided against it. Alright, so this is a automatically generated color palette that I did in palette.fm, and it's done some really great base level kind of guesses and stuff, but I mean, obviously it doesn't know this street in this time period, so things like the tram color were incorrect. And as you can see, I did some research for the types of trams and the types of colors they were painted at that time, brought in that reference and used that as the basis to paint these. You can see that tram reference there. Whilst it's not exactly the same model, it is of the same period. There were also burgundy versions of this tram, and I tried burgundy paint, you'll see soon, but it just didn't seem to look good. As you can see with these AI generated backdrops, a whole bunch of colors are okay, but then there's a whole bunch that are not, and there's a lot of areas where there's a lot of color bleed and people lack skin tone and clothing is all weird colors, and you can see there's oranges and yellows on the ground in between people. So I'm actually going to go through really methodically and repaint almost everything just using this generated palette as a starting point. So I'm painting into a separate layer above the palette. You can see the very topmost layer there, and that's actually set to color. So all I'm doing is adding color to the image. I'm not actually adding any luminance or or anything that might damage the original image underneath. So that was me trying to see if that burgundy would work. Clearly did not. So I'll make a quick folder called reference and throw those things in there. Oddly, this image that just popped up then was actually the same street, but grabbed in Street View. I thought I'd see if some of the original buildings were still there, and in fact they were. So that became also a really, really good starting point for me to grab some colour. Unfortunately for me on this image, there are a ton of flags, British flags, Australian flags, I think a few US flags even, but yeah, annoying. Alright, so that's a lot of the painting done, but you can see the levels are very lifted on the right hand side of the image, and in the bottom left hand corner. So making another levels adjustment layer and selecting the mask of that layer, I'm going to build a couple of grades. This one is just to darken off the right hand side of the image, and now I'll build another one and I'll put a grade bottom left to sort of darken that little spot. You can see when I toggle that on and off, it gives you a far richer color. A lot of those people are no longer as washed out as they were. Their dresses aren't that mid-grey, they've got some really nice deep tone. And through the benefit of speeding this up enormously, I'm getting close to a point where I'm kind of happy with where I'm at for the moment. And here we are, once again, the original fading into the completed work. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that wasn't sped up too much. Let me know what you thought. I'm trying to not make the boring bits too boring. But thanks again for joining me. We'll see you next time. Bye.